Hello again, and welcome to the International Coaching Federation Midwest Region Coaches Conference Meet the Presenters Series. That's a mouthful, right? Yeah, and we have another great set of great guests to talk about some fantastic events that are coming up at this year's conference that you're going to want to be a part of. Thanks for being in attendance and checking this out as we get into the details here and learn all about the pre-conference that has recently been added to the entire conference. We're going to be talking to Matt Becker and Heather Ramsey. They're co-leaders of the ICF Internal Coaching Community of Practice, and they've been an integral part in producing this pre-conference event, leveraging internal coaching to impact your organization, which is happening on June 21st at the Westin Hotel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right before the start of the main conference, the Midwest Region Coaching Conference, which starts then at 1 o'clock. Or noon, 1 o'clock-ish there in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be exciting and fantastic. My guest, Matthew Becker, is a coaching and mentoring manager for CareSource, a nonprofit managed care health plan quartered in Dayton, Ohio. And Matt has 18 years of experience in human resources development with a focus on leadership, development, coaching, and mentoring. And my other guest tonight is Heather Ramsey. She's the Director of People and Operations for Varsity Technologies, which is an IT consulting firm in San Francisco. She's worked as a coach internally and externally for 18 years, and she's developed internal coaching programs for several companies, implementing them through the entire development cycle. Welcome, the two of you. It's so great to have time to spend together to talk about this.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So I'm really curious, as I'm sure that many people are. This is new. This isn't something that we've tried before. This is kind of venturing into a new topic to actually create an entire event specifically for concerns of internal coaches. So what can we expect from the Internal Coaches Pre-Conference Forum?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. We are very excited about this because it is new, and of course we're biased, but we believe internal coaching has a big impact on the coaching industry moving forward. So what we've designed is kind of a combo panel discussion as well as an opportunity to kind of do a deeper dive with the participants. So we're going to have 5 individuals from different organizations that are intimately involved in internal coaching programs. We'll spend an hour or so asking the panel some questions about their experience and their programs. And then we will have a couple of rounds where the panelists will break up around the room and participants can go for 20 to 30 minutes and have deeper dive conversations with each of those panelists. So this allows them to really hear more nuts and bolts, what worked, what didn't work, what were the lessons learned, what were the keys to success, so that hopefully they'll have a lot of different information to take away with them to either take their internal coaching programs that maybe they already have to the next level, or if they haven't started one, to help make the case for being able to start an internal coaching program.
Yeah, that's great. And what kind of challenges do internal coaches, face? Like what are some of the topics you anticipate are going to come up from attendees asking these experienced folks on the panel?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways that you look at it. If you have an internal coaching program already in place, how do you continue to gain momentum in that program? How do you deal with confidentiality always? That's an internal coaching struggle, and where does the line get drawn? Also just having that bandwidth, like, do you have a current full-time job and are you taking this on, and how much and what percentage of that is dedicated or can be dedicated to coaching? If you haven't started a program yet, that very first step of looking at internal coaching or looking at coaching in general, and how does that fit in your organization? Does that fit with your organization and the culture? How do you create the space for that? And then gaining executive buy-in is just such a big piece that we constantly talk about.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that is kind of the how are we measuring success? So I know, there's always a running debate as can you measure the return on investment within coaching programs or coaching in general? And yeah, it's not always a direct correlation. However, especially within an organization, if you want this kind of support from an organization to invest in a program like internal coaching, you need to be able to measure its impact in some way, even if it's not return on investment. So that's a challenge for a lot of people, is how do you measure that to ensure that you get that, not only the buy-in and initially, but that you can maintain it and keep the program going.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, because coaching, we know coaching affects engagement and productivity and things like that. But actually putting any kind of measurement tool to that, to something that's somewhat, is it because of the subjectivity? It's more subject to observation rather than like, well, we can measure that, John worked 5 times harder on this project. Is that what creates the challenge there?
I think that some of it has to do when you're looking at measuring, some of it has to do with that subjectivity, although a lot can be objectively measured, and there's so many books and conversations about that. We talk about that constantly in our program. But the other piece, I think, is the confidentiality, is what can you share, and what shouldn't you share. And so there's a fine line in a dance that you play.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, what can participants kind of expect to come away with from participating in this forum, especially if they make plans like, hey, this looks as a good fit, we're thinking about these things at the company, or perhaps they are a coach and looking at introducing that idea. What can they expect to come away with?
Yeah, I think there's a range of things that they can walk away with, and our hope is that whether they're a new coach or maybe they're somebody in HR and they're thinking about, hey, I want to pitch coaching to my organization versus an internal program that's already established, we're hoping that they're going to get something regardless of where they're at. So it could be, again, how do I make that business case? How do I take my coaching program to the next level? One of the things that we've tried to do as we looked at the panelists is identify people from different industries, as well as people who have different models of their program. And Heather alluded to this earlier. Some programs, you have people who they're pretty much full-time focusing on coaching, where other programs, it's a bunch of people who are doing it in addition to their day job. So that's kind of what we refer to as the part-time model. There's no absolute right or wrong way. It's going to be different for every organization. But some organizations might start in one place and might evolve to another place, or they might, do both approaches. So we really hope that they're going to get a wide range of different possible approaches that they can learn from, and then they're going to kind of see, oh, here's how I could do this in my organization.
Yeah. In your conversations and what you've heard inside the conversation going on in the community of practice, how is coaching starting to emerge in companies? I know, like, in the larger companies in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I live, like seems like the major companies, 3M, like the big Medtronic, the big budget kind of 4,500, they have a team, they have coaching going. It's like, it's a thing that they're doing. But then kind of wondering about, like, but they're the exception. There's only so many of those legacy companies. Then you have all of these smaller companies or family-owned companies and things like that. How are you seeing it emerging? Like, where is the adoption coming from? Is it coming from HR? Are they getting turned on from external sources? What are you seeing and hearing?
I'll start out with that conversation. I think coming from a perspective of being an internal coach at some points, and then also an external consultant to that. And that's my area of expertise, is the small business. What we're seeing is that the way that smaller companies go up against talent, right, against those bigger companies is that they know they have to create this really lovely culture for people to come and want to work for. And in that way, it's creating the space of coaching to happen and being open to that possibility in the conversation, and that people really want. We also understand that people in today's world, the workforce in today's world, wants feedback more often, right? So in that way, that's where coaching just comes in naturally into the conversation, and smaller companies, I think, can really take hold and have that really drilled into their organization much easier and much quicker than, say, a larger company who has to, like, talk about change and all these levels of people and things like that in the organization.
Yeah. So it sounds like it not necessarily in terms of like the desire to look at these programs or bring coaches in, isn't necessarily something that's coming specifically from external coaches or even HR. Is it like coming from a variety of interests and sources? Because I heard you mention when you're describing that the company realizes, well, we need to have a culture, almost like we need to have the culture first to facilitate this, then bring in the coach, you know?
I think for me, I think it comes from top down is always extremely important. You have to have the executive buy-in, CEO, COO, right? Direct, CHRO, those types of people have to be involved and have the head nod in there and be able to give that executive buy-in. But it does, I think, a lot come from HR, the learning and development pieces of the organization. Sometimes you'll even just have a manager who will go out and seek coaching and decide that they love it and they want to start coaching their people and get great value and their department's doing very well. And so then people go, oh, what's going on there? And then bring it in that way. So Matt, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it comes from a range of different sources. One thing that Heather just talked about with the senior leadership buy-in, with the growth of coaching as an industry as a whole, right? Many senior executives have experienced coaching themselves with an external coach. And so as they're seeing the value in what coaching can do for them, then if somebody internally, even if it's somebody from HR, and if you make the right business case in terms of, here's how we can use coaching to help us achieve a strategic objective or improve sales or something like that, and you're pitching it to somebody who's experienced coaching themselves and seen the benefit, that's when I think you can start to get your foot in the door and make the case, and then it can start to kind of start rolling from there and get the momentum going. So yeah, it can come in from many different angles, but I think that's actually an advantage because it's growing on the outside, if you will, which makes it easier to make the case for bringing it internally as well.
Yeah, I think it's there's such a role and momentum to me around coaching internally inside of organizations that it's almost like it's like wildfire. It's like catching on all over. I mean, people are like sniffing it out. So I really that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, there's more seeking it out than there is the people just trying to sell it and hustle it. Like, no, really, look at this. It's starting to become common and ubiquitous, which does make it easier to bring up and engage in. So getting back to this, to the pre-conference itself, like who do you think would be like really, if you could think of people in positions and in roles that this would just be a fantastic experience for? I mean, we know for sure if somebody is acting as an internal coach somewhere, this is going to be really a fantastic experience and learning experience. But are there other positions or folks that are maybe wearing both hats? Could you perhaps describe for me a little bit like who this is really going to be great for?
Yeah, I get so excited when you ask me that question because I think, any HR professional, anywhere in your HR career, right? If you're an HR admin, if you're an HR specialist, if you're an HR manager, director of HR, a VP of HR, CHRO, any of those positions are really exciting because they see the value a lot. Mm-hmm. I know Matt and I both came from the training and development realm, so those training side of the house, learning and development, those areas are places where if people want to create some sort of coaching inside of the training that they're doing, those people would be well just to come and listen and hear what our coaches have to say about that. And then also, honestly, if you're a manager that's coaching inside of an organization and people don't even know that you're coaching, but you don't know how to it's really great for your department and you want to expand that, they would also be well served to come to this conference and this pre-conference workshop and listen in on what's happening.
Yeah, and I would add to that, any business leader that has experienced coaching themselves and said, wow, this was really helpful to me, and maybe they've just had an inkling of, what else could this do for our organization, then this is perfect for them to come to. And we know the Pittsburgh community is growing a lot, and there's lots of great things going on in the business community. So we're hoping that, particularly from Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh area, some people will come and say, hey, how do I use coaching to help our organization go to that next level? So that's really, we hope to draw the business community into this session.
Yeah, anyone in that's the C-suite realm is, you know, they know they want to take their company to the next level, and they're just trying to figure out what's that one little piece that we can, you know, that kicks us to the next level. This internal coaching is really what can do it, and it's fairly inexpensive and it's amazingly powerful.
That's awesome. So we're just wrapping up here our time together. This has been great. But if you could just name like one or two things that you're as you've been putting a lot of energy and work into developing this and pulling this all together, and just like one or two thing that really stands out to you that you're like most excited to reveal or to experience or have the participants experience.
Well, I think the thing I'm most excited about, so we've got 5 panelists. So we're excited to reveal the different industries that they're coming from and the experience that they have. And 3 of the 5 panelists are from organizations that have received either received the PRISM Award or honorable mention for the PRISM Award. So we've got some top level organizations and programs being represented. So I'm just excited that people are going to get to hear from not just one person, but 5 different people and 5 different examples.
Yes. And just to give context, the ICF PRISM Award is for internal coaching programs. It's a very large. It takes a lot to put in for that award. So let me just be clear. Not everyone gets that award. So it's a really big deal inside the ICF internal coaching community of practice. Actually, just ICF in general. This ICF PRISM. So we have 3, Matt. Right? We have 3.
Yeah.
And that is a boon for us. We're super excited about that. The programs are robust. I'm super excited because just the programs are robust, and you're going to hear their life cycle about how they started to where they are now, and really get that essence of how they've done it. I am most excited that this pre-conference workshop is even happening. Right? This is the first time that we've been able to have internal coaches together in one room, because we all are virtual most often, so that we're all in one room together having this amazing conversation. And not only do the participants get to hear about the programs, but then they get to sit and talk to the people who actually created and help create part of their programs for internal coaching, and just get to hear and ask questions and push off ideas. And I'm excited because I think every person is going to walk out with some to do, some next step, some exciting thing, this call to action that's really going to have them move their program or even start of their program forward. And that just, this mind-blowing to me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I love it. It will be like any other coaching experience. They'll have a breakthrough and then the ability to move forward.
Yes.
That's right.
And then come out and make amazing things happen, right? And like, abandon average and be exceptional. That's awesome. This has been so inspiring just listening to you guys talk about it. I have one last question that I thought of, because I thought, oh my gosh, I wanted to ask this earlier, but for anybody who's been wondering, I haven't heard of the ICF Internal Coaches Community of Practice. And internal coach, and they're like, this might be something I want to check out sooner than the conference. Tell a little bit about like what it takes to get involved in that and what that is, just briefly.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. So we run quarterly webinars. Our next one coming up is in May. So if you are not a part of our group, we want you to sign up so you can attend that. You can go to the Communities of Practice page on the ICF's website and look for the Internal Coaching Community of Practice and click join. And then you'll be on, once you complete that form, you'll be on the distribution list, so you'll find out about our upcoming sessions. And so in May, we're actually going to have the winner of the 2017 PRISM Award talking about their coaching program. So we're excited to have that.
Yeah, that'll be a great one as well to put on the calendar, so everyone can like run the website. Go ahead, try to overwhelm it. We welcome that. Right? Thousands of coaches and HR professionals overwhelming the server. What great news that would be. Heather, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to be able to talk about this. Thank you for all the effort and the work that you've put in to making this an extraordinary event. You know, having your talent and experience and eyes and ears in the creation of this is really going to make a huge difference, along with the other colleagues that you've worked with, to make this an extraordinary experience for people who come to the conference for the pre-conference and then stay for the rest of the conference, because there's so much more that's going to be there as well. So thanks so much. And we'll
Thank you, Jason.
again soon.
You're welcome. Have a
Thanks.
great day.
Have a good day.